Hi, I am Allison Smith Bass, and that is the book we're going to have today. The name of it is How Billy Joe Bobtail Met Texas Slim, or The Great Jackrabbit Race. This book, the story in this book takes place in Texas. If you don't know where Texas is, get someone to help you find it on your map. And then it's also about jackrabbits. Jackrabbits are big rabbits. They run so fast and can jump so far. Maybe someone can help you look up jackrabbits too. Here's our title page. The man that wrote this book is Robert E. May, and it's illustrated by Don McQueen. So let's see what we have here. Ready? All right. One bright and clear day, Billy Joe Bobtail was darting to and fro through the brush and cactus of West Texas. He stopped for a while and sat under the shade of a mesquite tree to get out of the hot noonday sun. He began to think, it's really kind of nice to be the fastest jackrabbit in the whole wide world. While he was thinking, Hoppy High Stockings, a friend of Billy Joe's from Tall City, came by. Hoppy was on his way back from a meeting in Odessa, Texas, where he had just closed a business deal. Hoppy stopped and joined Billy Joe under the tree. "What's on your mind, Billy Joe?" Billy Joe looked directly at Hoppy and replied, "As a matter of fact, I was just thinking how fine it is to be the fastest jackrabbit." Hoppy hopped closer to Billy Joe and said, "I hear there is a very fast jackrabbit over near Monahan's who claims that he is the fastest jackrabbit." "You don't say," Billy Joe said. His long ears stood straight up in the air. "I would like to meet him sometime." A few days later, Hoppy came by Billy Joe's place in Odessa. Soon Hoppy started talking about the Monahans rabbit again. "Billy Joe, there are lots of folks in West Texas who think the Monahans rabbit might run a little faster than you." Billy Joe grinned. "Well, that would be some feat. Not that I believe the Monahans rabbit can outrun you," continued Hoppy, "but that's what some say." "What's this rabbit's name?" asked Billy Joe. They call him Texas Slim," replied Hoppy, and he started to hop away. Hoppy had only gone a few feet from Billy Joe before he stopped in his tracks and turned around. "Billy Joe, I just got a great idea." "What's that?" Billy Joe asked. "It might be fun to have a championship race to find out who really is the fastest jackrabbit." Billy Joe was very sure of himself. Without hesitating, he said, "Set up a race, Hoppy. I'll prove once and for all who is the fastest jackrabbit." A few days later, Hoppy had some business in Monahans, which is known for its great sand dunes. While he was there, he met with some of Texas Slim's friends to arrange the race. Now here's a map. There's Monahans. It was decided that the race course would run between the towns of Wink and No Trees. After Texas Slim agreed to the race and all the arrangements had been made, Hoppy rushed back to Odessa to tell Billy Joe the exciting news that the race was set. Billy Joe was very pleased to hear the plans for the race. He wasn't worried much whether or not he would win the race. "After all," he said, "I'm just running for the fun of it." He believed he was the fastest jackrabbit, and the race would prove it. Just to be sure that his chances of winning would be better, though, Billy Joe ran more than ever on the days leading up to the race. Look at the race course. On the day of the race, thousands lined the race course from wink to no trees. Creatures of all sizes and colors stood ready to cheer. Before the race started, an especially important rabbit arrived in no trees. The crowd clapped when they recognized Senator Jake Rabtail. The senator stepped into the winner's stand where he would present the trophies after the race. Senator Rabtail was a portly rabbit and looked quite distinguished in his glasses and vest and string tie. Other jackrabbits in the area were allowed to enter the race, but none did so because they knew they couldn't compete with Billy Joe or Texas Slim. Finally, the big moment arrived. Billy Joe and Texas Slim both hopped up to the starting line. Texas Slim was tall and slender with long whiskers. Billy Joe was a little shorter, and his left ear hung down a little. They both had learned lots of good things about each other, so they were friendly before the race started. One of the reasons both agreed to the race was because they both loved running. The race starter raised his starting pistol and fired. Bang! The race was underway. After they had raced for several miles, Billy Joe, who was running as fast as he could, noticed that Texas Slim was keeping right up with him. And it wasn't long before the No Trees finish line was in sight. Texas Slim began to take the lead. Billy Joe tried to run faster. Texas Slim was still in the lead as the finish line drew closer and closer. Billy Joe tried even harder. In fact, he tried so hard that his left ear, the floppy one, started to twitch out of control. It twitched so much that before long it got the right ear twitching as well. And to his surprise, Billy Joe's twitching ears began to twirl like helicopter propellers. With his ears twirling, Billy Joe found himself flying over the sand. He came across the finish line just in front of Texas Slim. Billy Joe's twirling ears had given him the extra speed that he needed to pass Texas Slim just before the end of the race. The huge crowd surrounding the finish line cheered loudly for both Billy Joe and Texas Slim. Billy Joe raised Texas Slim's front paw high in the air with his own. After the race, Senator Bobtail stood up and gave one of his customary long speeches. Afterwards, he presented each of the racers with a shiny trophy. Billy Joe and Texas Slim stood side by side on the platform as their fans paraded by to congratulate them on a fine race. Senator Bobtail, who never missed the opportunity to mingle with the rabbits who had elected him, stayed on the platform to make sure he gave each passing bunny a friendly greeting. After everyone had left, Billy Joe and Texas Slim stayed around the winner's stand to catch their breath and to get to know each other. I've got to hand it to you, Texas Slim. I thought I was the fastest jackrabbit, but I believe that your feet are faster than mine, Billy Joe said. Texas Slim replied, That may be true, Billy Joe, but what about those twirling ears of yours? I don't believe there is another jackrabbit quite like you. You are one of a kind. This says No Trees Diner. It's pointing that way. A diner is where you eat. The race was over, but a lifelong friendship had begun. After Billy Joe and Texas Slim had caught their breath and the crowd was leaving, Billy Joe said, "Let's go over to No Trees Diner and have some apple pandowdy and prickly pear juice." Texas Slim agreed. "That sounds terrific. I'll treat." As they hopped off, each knew they would share another great adventure together in the future. And that's the end. Do you have a friend with whom you can share great adventures? Maybe you can share great adventures with your brothers or sisters or mom or dad or cousins. And also, do you think that you could have a race with a great friend of yours just because you like to run? I think that's a good idea. This is how Billy Joe Bobtail met Texas Slim. Thank you. Glad to see you. Bye.